Court TV Live, we are still trying to get to the bottom of what happened with an outburst that occurred at the very end of the court session today before they went on a comfort break inside of the young thug Rico trial. Let's go to that moment. You heard there's someone, it sounds like on the Zoom call for this trial saying free thug, meaning young thug, mistrial. So Ted, we're still trying to know if the jury was inside of the room or not. Our eyes and ears are in the courtroom because there's a wall there that really blocks seeing the jury. Isn't quite sure yet if the jury heard anything and says that everyone inside the courtroom hasn't mentioned it.
Yeah, we replayed it during the break, and it seemed as though it was perfect, almost perfect timing to where the jury was just out, possibly. But if they did hear it, is that a problem? Let's bring in John Mobley. He'll be able to guide us through this. He's in Columbia, South Carolina. John, good to see you, sir. This outburst on the Zoom, let's say it was audible. Let's say the entire jury panel heard it. Is this something that you are going to put on the record if you're one of the lawyers representing one of these defendants?
Well, first I need to confess that was actually me making that outburst. Free thug mistrial. So, but actually, no. I mean, that's not something I could imagine under any circumstances, even if the jury heard it, that'd be grounds for a mistrial. I mean, there was nothing from an evidentiary standpoint that was stated that was inflammatory about the case, about the defendant, or any kind of reference to anything that might be arguably prejudicial. So that's just one of those things that I would categorize as a storm in a teacup.
Yeah, John, because actually it would, if anything, benefit the defense in that case, and the prosecution isn't going to be the one to call for a mistrial once they are mid-trial. So to your point, it's really not something that perhaps the defense would want to have a problem with, do you think?
Oh, I agree. And I think, in the way the trial is going thus far, I would not see the defense wanted a mistrial. I mean, I want to make sure everybody understands, when you watch these trials on TV and lawyers for a mistrial, you think that's what lawyers want. But it is not always beneficial to get a mistrial in the defense. I mean, because you have to keep in mind that, when things are going your way for the defense, when things are going pretty well from the standpoint of how the witnesses are responding, the prosecutors being caught off guard with your arguments and defenses, that is your first shot at that. I mean, I've had to try cases over once it's been either a mistrial granted or a hung jury because the jury can't reach a decision. And I will tell you that from a defense standpoint, it's much more difficult to make those same points and have that same success in a retrial. At that point, the prosecutors always heard they've heard your arguments. They've seen the exhibit you're going to use. They've heard the cross-examination questions, the points you're trying to make. And in the first trial, they're caught off guard. They may have some idea, but they're not really sure. They've kind of got to react as opposed to preparing for things. And the second time around, they're in a lot better position to counteract all of the strengths of your case. So it's not always advantageous for the defendant to ask for a mistrial.
Yeah, and I think in this case, specifically, the only ones who would be okay with the mistrial might be the state, given to where we're at here. Plus, you've got clients that are in jail. They don't want a mistrial, especially when things are. Will get bond. Yeah, well, they would hopefully, yeah, depending on the charges. But in this case, yes, they'd be out. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let's go back in, pick it up when they resumed after that break, and see if it's mentioned at all.
Stevens, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, growing up in the area that you grew up in, how many law enforcement officers came to you with opportunities for jobs?